Okay, great. So our meeting is called to order, and I'll let Joan introduce the budget and go through the highlights, and we'll see if we have any questions.
Okay. Basically,
Hold the mic up.
can everybody hear me okay? So the front page is the budget highlights for fiscal year 2021. All the pages behind that are backup for the highlights. The first item is the debt payments, and what we try to do is keep 4 months in reserve after the payment is made in July. If it's not 4 payments, then what I do is I take the next year and collect 1 extra payment to try to build up to a 4 payment reserve. That we only have 2 debts, the Hayes Caldwell 2017 and the Wells Ranch 2015, that haven't met the 4-month reserve. And actually that is on page 14, if anybody wants to see that, and it kind of shows how I calculate that. So I just show the actual payments that I collect every month for each debt, and then the payments. And so at the end of July is where I show if there's 4 months or not. And that's not taking into account any interest income or anything. It's just actual payments from the entities, less the payments for the bond payments. Anybody have any questions on that?
No, I appreciate your diligence in keeping that reserve strong. Steve Vonville just joined us.
Okay, the next item that we have is the raw water cost. I did get notice from GBRA that they are going to remain at $151 an acre foot, which is what they're charging us for 2020. This does not include the CPI adjustment that they charge us for the out-of-basin water. And so I just kind of made an adjustment to that. Hopefully that's correct. The Wells Ranch water leases are based upon the GBRA rate. We pay 83.3% of the GBRA rate, and that's on all the new leases. We have some leases that have been acquired since, I believe it started in 2014, 2015, and they are a rate, and it's also adjusted by the CPI adjustment. So, and then we had a few leases that there were some contract changes in. So all that's reflected in the raw water costs. The GBRA regional raw water delivery system, I got a notice from them. They are going up 21%. This affects the Hayes Caldwell entities, and so it's based upon the water that they move through the pipeline, and I have no control over that cost. So
did they have any backup on why it had to go up that much?
They said electrical costs was one of the items, the major items, and after reviewing our electrical costs, I was kind of like, okay, I didn't quite understand, but.
How much did our electrical costs go up?
Ours actually pretty much stayed the same.
Okay.
So
it's more with the failure of the dam.
This is Alfred. It's probably because they're double pumping. They got to pump it from one side of the dam to the other, then they pump it from the dam to San Marcos.
yeah, maybe so, but that was their comment. I can't really do anything about that. So.
Okay. Great.
So then we go on to operations and maintenance. Our insurance is through TML. They said that our basic values of all the property is going up 3%. The actual cost that they're charging us has stayed the same. So the rate will go up, what we're having to pay, and that's all reflected in here. The repair and replacement funds, we're doing just like we did last year. basing it on plant contracts, and that's all the contracts in CRWA. We're maintaining that at $1 million, just like we did last year, so there's no change there. The plant facilities and pipeline personnel costs are based upon a percentage for each location. We used to do it where we had an individual at one location, and it was like that wasn't fair to all the entities, so now we do it at a percentage basis.
Okay.
The annual personnel costs have increased by approximately $93,000 over last year. That includes a 5% increase to employee wages based upon general manager's discretion, and a 4% insurance, 4% increase in health insurance costs. It also includes revising the TCDRS retirement plan of the employee contribution from 4% to 5%. This will cost Canyon Regional an additional $18,000 this year for 2021. This was something that was discussed at the Board of Trustees meeting, and they said for us to look at it from here.
Yeah.
Personnel costs includes wages, employee benefits, and workers' compensation. Anybody have any questions on that?
Is that a matching the contribution?
Yes.
Thank you.
What we discussed in the committee that recommended that was our goal is ultimately to get to the maximum contribution rate of 7%. But that's kind of, because it's a matching thing to the employees, it's kind of, it would be a real burden to hit them with a giant increase at once. So we're incrementally trying to get up there, because we fundamentally believe that to give staff the tools they need to recruit, retain, and reward good people, that we're never going to match some of the salaries around here. We're never going to compete with the oil patch, but we can compete in benefits. And as we change our workforce over from some of the older folks that are going to age out of the system to possibly younger people with families, benefits become that much more important to those people. And we can't even touch them if we aren't, pretty strong in the benefits area. So that's been our goal, that we've agreed with staff that works for them and gives them the tools they need to do those things. And so that's why we're moving up a percentage point this year. And we hope to get there in a reasonable amount of time without rocking the boat, so to speak.
Mike, this is Brandon. I spoke to Randy on the phone about 30 minutes ago to get his thoughts on the budget, since he wasn't going to be able to make it. And he did recommend moving forward with the 5% on the retirement.
Good. I knew we had spoken, and he was for it at the time we discussed the principles of what we were following through with.
The fixed operations and maintenance costs are based upon the plant contracts. So what I've done is I looked at what we had budgeted for 2020, what we actually spent, if I needed to adjust it, like if we had a major expense, we know we're not going to have it again, and vice versa, or if we know that something that is coming up. And I do have a little bit of notation in the worksheets that follow for that. We have our generator maintenance. It's based upon plant contracts. A lot of our things are plant contracts. They've told us this is what we're going to charge you. And there's not a whole lot I can do about that either. The variable costs, which is what I charge on a cost per thousand, is the electrical and chemical cost. The electrical cost, we found that it's pretty much the same as it was last year. There wasn't a big increase. Now, chemical costs did go up 2%. I've actually gotten a couple of notices that some of our other providers are going up a little bit also, but that should be fine in that one. Now, so this is also one of those things that the more you use, the more our costs go up. The less you use, the less they go up. So that's why we have it as variable cost. For Wells Ranch, we have increased cost in maintaining the wells and the pumps. We actually had some major expenses this past year. We actually had one, I believe, I don't know why, it was like $50,000, if y'all can explain why that happened. It was just, it broke.
Which one was that?
The chicken house well. So I've adjusted for that, kind of reduced a little bit, and then added a little bit more in there for other items.
And we've discussed this at length, that some of our stuff is getting older, and so the O&M costs are going to go up because as it gets older, it's more likely to break. And the stuff that breaks is not stuff we can't fix. It has to be fixed. So inching that up is just a factor of the age of the system.
One other factor in that is that we have added 5 wells to the system.
Yeah.
So, and also for Wells Ranch, we've included $50,000 for the roadway repairs amongst all the well fields and getting around and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was a big discussion at the construction committee, and we know we have to do it. It's a TCEQ requirement to have all-weather roads to our assets that supply our water. And yeah, they're just gravel roads, but they still got to be maintained and fixed.
This is Victor Contreras. I have a question. Are we on page 26 on Wells Ranch operations and maintenance? Is that where we're at right now? Because I was looking at that. It's a reduction. Is that what you're talking about? In the variable cost, operating cost?
Well, the variable costs have actually gone down a little bit as far as the budget number is concerned. That's the number that's, we actually lowered the projected sales. We went through and we looked at everybody's usage over the last few years. And so everybody's usage was less than the actual projections.
Okay.
Or the majority of them were. Some went up a little bit, some went down. So we adjusted them accordingly. So the actual, and that's why that number went down.
All right. I appreciate it.
It actually happened on every one of the different locations. Wells Ranch, like Dunlap, Mid-Cities, for that reason.
But actually, I think what we're working from, Victor, is on page 1. Right now, she's reading these comments generically inside of the budget.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
But that's another function of a water system. You can never pin down exactly how much water we're going to sell and what the weather's going to do. I think the staff does a great job of using long-term trends of sales and kind of not going with the huge peaks and valleys that happen occasionally on certain events, and just kind of blending it in. And so, yes, it's their educated guess on what these variable costs are going to be, and all you can do is look at history.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
So then on the Mid-Cities, we have the plant maintenance includes some pipeline and valve repairs of $75,000. We've seen that, and it goes back to what Mike was saying. Our equipment is aging. It needs to be replaced, repaired, and it has to be fixed. We also have in here purchase of a new vehicle. Canyon Regional has grown. We have guys going all over the place, and we actually need a new vehicle. So that's why we have a budgeted amount in here of $40,000. One of the items under admin, this is something that we've talked with the Board of Managers. We had New Gen Strategies come in and do a rate study. One of the things that they suggested is to allocate the administrative costs based on cost of service instead of plant contracts. That makes it a little bit more fair for the entities that are using more water versus the ones that aren't. And it takes everything, and cost of service is your debt payment, your water usage, the plant O&M, which includes the variable cost, which is usage, line use, and also the repair and replacement fund. So there is a page, we can look at that after a while. I'm not sure where it's at. Page 43, and that will show the different allocation for the entities.
I know that our lawyers are very adamant that we as a retail water sales entity always base our rates and stuff on cost of service, because that's totally defensible. And it's the fairest rate you can come up with. Yeah, parts of every rate is guesswork, but actual applying it to cost of services is always the fairest way to do rates and the most defensible.
If we could point out real quick that the COS is the calculation in the column.
Mm-hmm.
Will you point to it with the cursor?
This right here, the COS.
Cost of service percentage.
Correct, Joan?
Yes. And also on this sheet, it does not include the alliance or the buy-in calculation for the city of Converse. That is, when the alliance comes on, then we would add it.
Yeah.
So, anybody have any questions on that? Okay, the next item on my recap is the membrane funds. So in 2020, we replaced to the nanostone ceramic membranes at Lake Dunlap. We should have already made part of the quarterly payments this year, but because it has not been approved by TCEQ yet, there was some delays. There was some additional funds available, so I restarted an amortization schedule on that. And it's a 10-year amortization, because that's to build up the payments. They're talking about this is what it would cost after 10 years to completely replace them. And then at Hayes Caldwell, we did replace 2 of the stages, I believe. And so I've redone the amortization schedule on that. So when it comes time in 5 years to replace that, we'll have the available funds.
Right.
The next item that we have is the Alliance, and that's an in and out. We have the 4 entities, Crystal Clear, Green Valley, County Line, and Martindale, that are involved. So, and it's an increase in our budget of $1.2 million. But it, like I said, it is an in and out for us. And
Not for us, it's out.
Yeah.
It never comes. Hopefully it'll come back in 2023 with more.
Yeah, right. But it keeps it transparent to see, because you're going to see that money falling into our accounts and then leaving our accounts. So I get it. Well, I appreciate your hard work on this budget, Joan and staff. I know y'all kind of agonize over this every year, and part of it is just experience, and other part is just what's going on and using historical and trends. But I've gone over this and because I had to plug these numbers into my budget that I'm presenting to my board tonight. And so I don't see any waste in this budget, any fat. I think it is what it takes to run this properly and in compliance with the regulations. And so unless anybody has a major concern.
If we could, real quick.
Yep.
We will have a change.
Which one?
Chris, East Central notified us that they need to go up on their rate that they supply to Livonia. It'll move from $6 to $7, which when that happens, it'll change the calculation on cost of service
Yes.
on the admin fee just a little bit. It's not going to be a big shift. We'll make that correction. But I think right now our numbers are pretty solid here with what we think is going to happen.
Okay.
Hope so.
So before this gets to the actual vote at the board, that will be recalculated, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's not going to change the actual number per se as far as the admin cost. It's just going to change the allocation for the
The
entity.
percentage breakdowns.
Yes.
Okay.
I've got to change, Mike, on page 25, just on the description. So it has groundwater district fees, and it says, I think Joan put monitoring wells. That should be something else, because the monitoring well program is so there should-
Okay.
There should be
What that means is, so if you look at, for the 5 months ended 5/31, we paid $313,000. So now we're only going to be paying $262,000 because the monitoring wells are done.
okay, so maybe say no more monitoring, make some type of descriptive, the monitoring wells program is done with or something. Because when I read that, it says monitoring wells, we're going to contribute that much, but there's no longer a monitoring well program in these groundwater districts. We've paid and there's excess money out there. So this is probably the export fee or something.
Okay, what we have to pay to the groundwater districts is Guadalupe.
Mhm.
And then for Gonzales, we pay the mitigation fund
Mhm.
and then the export fee.
Yeah, so just,
So the 313,000 includes all of that plus the monitoring wells that we paid to Gonzales. So we won't pay the monitoring wells now of that 76,000.
Basically, what it's saying is because of the monitoring wells, it went down 76,000.
okay. As long as y'all understand it, because I don't want another entity to come out here and saying, well, we're done with the monitoring wells. Why are we?
That's why it went down, because we're done paying for the monitoring wells.
That's fine.
It's the justification for that number going less $76,000.
Okay.
Is your glass half full or half empty?
My glasses or my glasses? All right, makes sense.
Yep. Any other questions from the folks on the phone or here in the boardroom about the budget? Comments, criticisms?
I just want to thank you for putting it together. It's really enlightening to see that. So I appreciate all the time and hard work y'all have done to do that. This is Victor, I'm sorry.
Anybody else? Okay, if nothing else, we're going to recommend this to the board to be approved as presented with the minor changes in the percentage of cost of service due to the Liburnia East Central thing. So, okay, we're adjourned at 10:23. Thank you all. Appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
Bye.
Y'all have a good day.